So, after spending the week declaring everyone a racist for not liking the rings of power, they put out a new episode, the third one, Adar, or Adar, if you will, which appears to be the name of the leader of the orcs, or I guess the captain of the team that abducted. What's his name? The elf soldier. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. Who was one of the only interesting characters from the first two episodes. Here, it's just he's stuck and put into chains for slave labor by the orcs, who apparently are allergic to the sun. So, and since they were, it seemed like they had all these tunnels in the previous episode. So it was like, okay, so they're working through these tunnels and everything. And they had some tunnels, but now they've got areas that are outside. And so they just put a bunch of rags on top of their little work area, and then wear rags wrapped around their heads and stuff in order to conceal them from the sun, which, it takes the captured elves, and I don't know, I guess some of the captives are humans, a while to recognize that the orcs are at a huge disadvantage. And eventually they figure this out and decide to revolt, and they attack, and turns out the elves are, they looks like they got super martial arts, or magic martial arts. Hey, our chains can be used as weapons, and sure enough, they use them to slap the orcs around. They steal some of the weapons and some of the tools they use as weapons, the digging tools they had. Oh, yeah, these could be weapons. Yeah. And so they attack the orcs and knock down their little shed, and they're like, sunlight, ew. And they don't have their sunblock lotion. And they retreat inside, and then they sick their dog on them. It's a pretty vicious animal, but it's only one. Yet it does make short work of everybody. It's too bad Galadriel wasn't around, because she would have slaughtered it without, blinking an eye. And so they do manage to trap it and trick it, and then one of the guys manages to make it out of the pit, so to speak, but he gets killed anyway by some arrows. Turns out they had, I guess, a sniper waiting for anyone to escape. And so Soldier Elf falls back into the pit. And they say, "Take him before Adar." Which I don't know. I guess they're impressed with him nearly escaping, even though all the others are all wiped out. So I'm not sure what's the point of keeping him around, but, well, of course, he's one of the main characters. So need to keep him around for that episode. So they show Adar walking around, and it looks ominous and doesn't quite look orc-like. He's got some long hair, and his face is all blurred and out of focus. So, who is this? Well, you'll have to tune in next week to find out. Meanwhile, the Harfoots are really a terrible society. I mean, if you twist your ankle, they leave you behind. I mean, they'll give you a chance, but they're not going to help you at all while they migrate to another area to, live in the weeds and stuff. And that's what they're going to do. Meanwhile, Gandalf, or whoever this guy is, turns out if you feed a Gandalf, he's yours. So Nori, for some reason I do remember female Frodo, Nori, and she's sort of stuck with him. This almost gets her exiled when they discover she's been keeping this guy. But she's just a kid, so let's just forget about it. And they move on. But meanwhile, her family's falling behind because her father had injured his foot. And I guess he's a hurt foot. Tee-hee, giggle, giggle. But then Gandalf shows up to help them because, well, he's a human being, so he's much bigger than they are. So it's easier for him to push their cart forward, so they're able to keep up with the group. Although they'd probably be better off just finding some other place for themselves, But anyway, that's what they do. They show their little celebration, and Lenny Henry reads a speech to them and all that sort of stuff. That's about it. Meanwhile, Galadriel, the real star, she and her new will they or won't they boyfriend, they end up going to Númenor. Yeah. And and that's actually the most spectacular sight of all the great CGI work of the city, the gateway to it, and all that stuff. And you get into there was a split between them and the elves, and they're not happy that she's there. But then later on, the queen goes into, I guess, her private chambers, and whether she's actually talking to someone or just speaking, for one had passed away or whatever. He says, we feared she had, what we feared has finally happened. She's arrived, or whatever. So that is, everything's a telltale sign of the terrible war to come. And so it turns out her will they or won't they boyfriend is apparently a king. So, gee, what does that remind you of? Yeah, but he feels like he's unworthy of it. So she says, join me and we'll restore our names, or some crap like that. And so there you go. That's what they're doing. The thing about this episode is that unlike the other two, this one is trying to set up something for them to do. It's all a bit ripping off the original Lord of the Rings narratives and whatnot, but at least it's something of an effort, whereas the previous ones really didn't. It's just showcasing a bunch of stuff. And same thing here. Galadriel, this version of her anyway, remains just absolutely awful. And a lot of times her motivations don't make sense, where her chances of pursuing them, she knocks away because she's insulted or whatever, that sort of thing continues. So anyway, that's about it. It's like some amount of effort. That's just my opinion, I guess, but it doesn't matter. I mean, after a week of, once again, they quadrupled down this time on calling everybody racist and whatnot. It's not going to work. And I mean, you do that and it's like, geez, it's impossible to give this show a chance now. So, I mean, I knew what was going to happen. To tell you the truth, none of this really surprises me. Because all they've ever done is showcase their superficial shields of the token shields of skin and genitals. And that's all they did. And that's all they've got to shield a lackluster production. Except this one cost a buttload of money. You can go through the other failures, Star Trek and Star Wars and all that. But this, yeah. So they can flail about. They can dig up old actors from the previous movies and have them insult everybody. And just absolutely refuse to address the plot details, the character development, the lack of story for the most part, until sort of kind of now. That tells you all you need to know. And when has this ever worked? It hasn't. It hasn't. It's the template that, for the most part, goes back to Ghostbusters 2016. You're never going to shame people into seats. You're not going to shame them into subscriptions. None of it. And now you've done it to something like this, Lord of the Rings. And everybody just needs to accept that you're better than them. And, that's not going to work. So anyway, 3 episodes in. Couple of more left. Whatever. I'm not seeing the money in it still. I mean, like I said, the city of Númenor looked great, and all that. And there's a couple other scenes of photography was really good. The music, it's kind of simple, but it's still, wasn't really moved by it in the previous 2 episodes, but this one I thought was a step up. It might be the same, and I just didn't catch it, before. But that, I thought was a little better. But, but again, not really seeing the money. There's all this money that was spent on it, not completely seeing it, especially like some scenes, like in the orc camp. Geez, some scenes look pretty cheap. Didn't look all that great. I don't know. Was this a money laundering scheme to pay off some mob debt or something? I don't. Hush money for somebody? It's weird, Oh, well. I guess I'll watch the next one next week. Yeah. Not really looking forward to it. I mean, it's quickly losing even the curiosity of how bad can it be. And it's only 3 episodes in, so yeah, there you go. Rings of Power.